do I complete this square? I know how. So for real now, the method I'm going to be teaching you is completing the square. Now, how do you know when to use this method? 1 is when you can't factor an equation, and 2 is when the variable b in the equation is even. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the equation used to complete the square. It's negative b over 2a all squared. Now, you're going to plug your numbers from your equation in. So it's negative 10 over 2, 1. And then see how I'm plugging all the numbers in and just adding? So then we have to square it. So then we're going to simplify it. Negative 10 over 2, and that equals negative 5, and negative 5 squared equals 25. I apologize, my lovely assistant did not include the rest of the writing. It equals 25. So now you're going to plug in the 25 to the c value of the equation. Now the equation is going to equal 22. Now, how did I get 22? This is the original equation before using the completing the square method. Now, how did you get from 3 to 25? You had to add 22, and what you do to one side, you have to do the other. Therefore, the opposite side of the equation equals 22. The next step is to factor. So you factor this equation out, and you should get an end result of x plus 5 squared, and then you have to pull down the 22. Then you have to square root both sides of the equation, and then you're left with x plus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 22, because you don't want to square root 22 because then you'll get some big irrational number. You're going to subtract 5 from each side, then you're left with x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 22. Important things to remember while using this method.
For sure, the equation, negative b over 2a squared. Do not forget it. Also, change the c value. Don't forget to plug the answer you get from this equation into the c value.
Make sure you add and subtract to the other side of the equation. For example, how do you get to 25 to 12 in this sequence? You subtract 13, therefore you have negative 13 right there.
On to the next problem.
Okay, so our next equation is n squared minus 2n minus 3 equals 0. So the first thing we're going to do, again, is to use our equation and plug in the numbers into the equation. After that, you should get 1. Now you're going to plug 1 into the c value equation, which is right there. Then you're going to ask, how did I get 4 on the other side? So what you do to one side, again, you have to do to the other. So your original number was negative 3. Now how do you get from negative 3 to 1? You add 4. That's why the 4 is on the opposite side. Okay, so then you're going to factor the equation. Then your factors will be n minus 1 squared equals 4.
It ain't over yet.
Now, you have to get rid of the square sign on each side, so that means you have to square root each side of the equation, and then you'll be left with n minus 1 equals plus or minus 2.
See me rolling, the hating.
Then you have to get rid of the 1, so you're going to add 1 to each side, then you're going to be left with n equals 1 plus or minus 2. Then you have to figure out what n really equals. So you're going to take 1 plus 2, and that's going to equal 3. Then you're going to take 1 minus 2, and that's going to equal negative 1. Then your final answers will be n equals 3 and negative 1.
Some practice problems.
Okay, so your first practice problem will be x squared minus 8x plus 5 equals 0. Now make sure to pause the video and then come back for answers.
Hello? Pause!
Now you should end up with x equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 11. Okay, so for your last practice problem, it's going to be x squared plus 12x plus 4 equals 0. Now for some sweet answers. Are you ready? Okay, so you're going to use the method in the equation. You're going to plug your numbers in, like I had said before. If you were not listening, go rewatch the video, okay? Then factor, and you should end with -6 plus or minus the square root of 32. Don't get it? Rewatch it or ask Mr. Anderson for help. Thanks for watching.